I want to talk about Stalker 2 for a minute because this is a game that is miraculous in its existence. Frankly, I'm shocked that this game came out at all, given the state that it was made in. For those who don't know, the development studio behind this game is GSC Game World, and they are based in Ukraine, or were at least, until the war started, with Russia coming in, invading the country, and that obviously put a huge damper on the game development process, but also on the lives of these developers who've had to make significant adjustments in order to complete this game. So this is an extraordinary circumstance for a video game. They call it the war game in this documentary where they talk about the making of Stalker 2. And you can see kind of what they went through, the evacuations, the fact that some of the developers actually fought in the war, and all of the ways that they try to help their own country. And then those who fled, the kinds of adjustments that they had to make, and all of the concerns and worries and dangers that they had to face as they continued the development process of this ambitious title. And now that the game is finally out, it's just really cool to see the success that it has seen. It is by no means a perfect game. I have been playing it myself. I've played a few hours of it. And what I love about it already is that it does capture that Stalker essence. I have really fond memories of playing Shadow of Chernobyl. I remember playing through it vanilla and then realizing that you could just mod the hell out of the game, and that the modding community of it was just so, expansive. And once I delved into the modding aspect of the title, this game just it really became ingrained in my mind as one of the most engrossing experiences I've ever had. And Stalker 2 really harkens back to that. While I'm sure we're going to have to wait some time before we see the mods kick in, the modernization that they've done to Stalker, while retaining that atmosphere and that constant sense of tension where every combat encounter can be lethal with the slightest wrong move, if you're just the slightest bit careless, because every shot deals so much damage and you have to be so just attentive about everything. But alongside that, you've got the fact that if you strategize well and if you pull off headshots and everything, you can kill enemies very swiftly if your aim is true and your tactics are right. And just the atmosphere, the world is so beautiful and haunting, and all the cool weather effects and the anomalies. And it is just really it's that post-apocalyptic kind of world, but in a very kind of uniquely identifiable way that only Stalker can approach this genre. All of that, I think, is really well captured, with the only major flaw really being that there's just a lot of technical issues surrounding the game. Some people have experienced game-breaking bugs, and others are just experiencing performance issues. For my part, mainly I've been experiencing performance issues and some visual bugs and glitches here and there as far as lighting is concerned, and sometimes the seams of walls, you can see they're not meshed together properly, so you see through the game world a little bit. So there's things like that that kind of take me out, and I do think this game could have used more time to cook, but I think eventually this game will be in a prime state for everyone to try out and really enjoy this specific type of first-person shooting, open-world, post-apocalyptic survival experience. And, to be fair to the devs, again, they made this game during a war, and it's cool to see that they came out on the other side with some semblance of success. It's actually great to see the Steam numbers right now. Going to Steam charts, you can already see that there are tens of thousands of players playing right now as of the recording of this video. But the 24-hour peak and the all-time peak concurrent players at this stage, you can see that it actually, for the second consecutive day, it went up. It went from roughly 113,000 players to 117,000 players. So the retention surrounding this game and the word of mouth surrounding this game and how that's spreading, all that's looking really positive right now. And just to give you some idea, these are numbers that are roughly a third of Starfield's, which sold over 10 million copies. So Stalker 2 has definitely sold a few million copies. And while I don't know what the expectations are surrounding what would make this game a quote-unquote success, a couple million copies sold for, what is sort of a niche video game IP that is competing with, some major AAA competitors out there, seeing numbers like these that are very competitive for a single player AAA game just highlights that I think this game will, make its money back and then some. And just to give you some idea as to why these numbers actually look really positive, something like Dragon Age Veilguard, Dragon Age being a pretty, well-known IP from BioWare, that game actually had less all-time peak concurrent players than Stalker 2 did. Of Dragon Age Veilguard peaked at 89,418 players, and there's still tens of thousands of players coming back. So the engagement on this game is high, but Stalker 2 is seeing higher engagement than an IP that's more well-known from a bigger company like EA and BioWare. So this is actually, I think, just a resounding, coming out at the end of the road of hell to see the light and to see their game come out. And a lot of folks are celebrating it and are understanding of the circumstances that the developers made this game in. Generally, the user score surrounding this game has been really positive. You can see that there are tons of reviews, and an 80% score for a game that is sort of technically not in the best state. A lot of people are highlighting the technical issues, but also are just so happy with how good the Stalker experience ended up translating into this sort of more modern take on this series with Stalker 2, where it really does feel like the successor, where there's just so many improvements that were made, and it still retains that Stalker identity, that Stalker soul, that Stalker spirit. And so, yeah, the complaints really are mainly technical. The game itself, you can see the amount of heart and love and the identity and the vision for it was just so strong. If they only weren't, essentially marred by the war circumstances, I feel like they could have probably had a better outcome on a technical level. On Metacritic, while the Metascore isn't as high as we would have liked this game to be, the reason the score is so low, a lot of it really has to do with the technical issues that mar this game. I think a lot of reviewers were right to give it a lower score for the launch state. I think it's, while obviously the game was made in very strenuous circumstances, it doesn't change the fact that ultimately they are selling a product that consumers will buy. And so despite the arduous situation that they had to work this game under, it doesn't change the fact that those technical issues are worth pointing out and worth letting people know that, hey, maybe it's actually better to wait a little bit for some patches to come out. And so a lot of reviewers did have all of that reflect the score. But that aside, there's a lot of enjoyment to be found here in terms of the kind of game that this is and who it's meant to appeal to. It's a very hardcore, very difficult, very punishing, but at the same time, if you come out on the other side of the challenges that it presents, very rewarding experience. And so the fact that that element is like really there at its core of this game has allowed many people to overlook the technical issues. And so we're seeing some generally favorable scores, 7.8 on Metacritic, 80% on Steam. So for a game that is in such a rough technical state, that's actually really impressive to see users kind of ultimately still give it a really positive score. And I really do think there's nothing quite like Stalker. You play something like Fallout and it feels like the more mass market appeal version of the post-apocalyptic open world fantasy. Stalker feels like the more grounded version of that, where you really feel all of the dangers associated with living in a world like that. It just feels like everything's a lot more grounded, from the survival elements to just how easy it is for you to die out there if you're not careful, to just how sparse resources actually can feel, to how terrifying all of the mutations and creatures and all these things out there can be, because they can really come at you out of nowhere. And at the same time, you've got all of these different factions who are trying to survive and all the ambushes you can end up partaking in, and the way this game gets your heart pumping, both when you are ambushed by situations you weren't expecting, dangers that you weren't expecting, to the adrenaline rush you feel when you overcome them through smart play and through just, your skills as a gunman, and, all of the managing you have to do. I don't know, there's just this, really, really visceral kind of immersiveness to this game that, despite the technical issues getting in the way of that immersiveness from time to time, that being there just really makes this game stand out, in my opinion. Even if I would actually also not recommend it on day one, I would also wait until the game is in a better state for you to at least like play it. But for those who are okay with a rough technical ride, but still want to experience what this particular brand of post-apocalyptic open world has to offer, it just hits a very specific itch that you want to scratch. And this game just really took me back to it was almost nostalgic to go back to kind of the good old days of these kinds of first-person shooters, and to relive that unique niche experience I had with Shadow of Chernobyl. Stalker 2 is just a modernization and evolution of that, and I'm excited to just finish the game and to mod the hell out of it when that scene becomes bigger. And I really just wanted to highlight this game to wish the developers all the best, and to really highlight what a miraculous outcome this is, that the game is able to enjoy this kind of success, at least, from a financial perspective, seeing the numbers that it's pulling in after the war and the hell that would have justified the potential shutdown of this project. The fact that they powered through, persevered through, is kind of inspiring, if I'm being honest with you. I hope they hold their heads high, knowing that I think ultimately they did make a really special feeling game that just needs fine-tuning and patching and refining. If they can make a game like this throughout those trials and tribulations, I'm curious what they'll be able to achieve with all of the experience that they've earned from Stalker 2, alongside, maybe under conditions that are less strenuous, what they can achieve in the future as they continue to grow and as they continue to evolve. This is one of those, I think, studios to keep an eye out for, and I think one of the really valuable ones that Xbox has acquired. Hopefully Xbox won't take that for granted. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Stalker 2. If you've played the game, what do you think about it? And what do you think about just the circumstances surrounding this game, the fact that it launched at all, and how the game is being received and the numbers that we're seeing surrounding it. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.